Here's how you can launch a successful influencer marketing campaign for your Web3 brand or NFT project. The influencer marketing stage of the marketing launch is what I call the graveyard of most projects. This is where most teams end up spending the majority of their marketing budget on influencer campaigns and end up crashing and burning because of a lack of results and because of them spending the majority of the liquidity that they have at the disposal, preventing them from continue building or even recovering from these campaigns. So if you are a Web3 team or an NFT project that is about to roll out your marketing launch or are in the strategy phase of an influencer campaign, then this video is going to show you exactly what do you need to be ready to roll out your influencer campaign. What is the right timing to roll that out? What constitutes a successful influencer strategy that converts? And finally, how do you make sure that the project keeps growing and scaling without you continuously having to spend money along the way? That's exactly what you're going to be learning in today's video. And if this is the first time we meet, my name is Leon Aboud. And over the last 3 years through my Web3 marketing agency, unfungible.xyz, I've had the opportunity to work with over 100 of the top Web3 brands. And in only the last 12 months, the projects that we've worked directly with have generated over $40 million in NFT mints or token launches. And I make these videos for you today so you can learn from my experience, implement some of the lessons that I've learned along my journey into your project so you have all the odds stacked in your favor when you are out in the trenches trying to bring your project to reality and transform this beautiful industry that we're in called Web3. Now, throughout this video, I'm going to be using two terms in conjunction. The first one is influencers. The second one is KOLs, which stands for Key Opinion Leaders. So if throughout this video you hear me using the words influencers or KOL, they pretty much both mean the same thing. And when it comes to the successful rollout of an influencer campaign, there are three main stages that you want to think about, with influencer marketing being sandwiched between these two phases. So here's what it would look like with phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. So the very first stage of a project is what I call the kickoff stage. The second stage is where we have the influencer campaign. And the third one is the incentive campaign. And the reason this is very important is because influencer marketing does not stand on its own feet. It needs to be part of a broader marketing strategy that allows you to have a successful kickoff of the influencer campaign and that allows you to relay the results that you got with that campaign to the next stage of the project, which is going to be the exponential growth of the project. And I want you to think that each of these three stages work together. Think about a relay race when you have one runner running, and then at some point during the race, they give the baton to the next runner that then starts sprinting and then gives it to the next runner. That's exactly how the three phases work together. And you need each one of those three phases to have a successful overall rollout of your influencer campaign. And where I see most founders fail is they try to launch the influencer campaign on its own. They try to get traction through the influencer campaign. They try to attract eyeballs through the influencer campaign, and they try to get buyers through the influencer campaign. And this doesn't work that way. And that is how you end up spending the majority of your budget on an influencer campaign that will not get you the results that you're hoping for. So I'm going to be showing you what each of those three phases are and how they all fit within a broader and successful KOL campaign. So for phase 1, which is the kickoff stage, the reality is influencer campaigns can be costly. They're expensive. The cost per 1,000 eyeballs is incredibly high. There was recently a campaign that we had direct oversight on that ran a $25K marketing budget with KOLs. And what they ended up getting with that campaign was 67K impressions through the network of KOLs that they had, which results in an estimated CPM, which is a cost per 1,000 impressions. In marketing terms, it's cost per mile of $180 for the CPM. Anyone who's into marketing knows that $180 CPM is incredibly expensive. When you're looking at Facebook ads, when you're looking at YouTube ads, TikTok ads, these are the typical range of the CPM, depending on your industry, is between $10 to $50. So that's what it typically looks like in Web 2. In Web 3, we're looking at 5 to 10 times higher CPM. And the reason why the CPM is so high is because the number of high quality creators that exist in our space is scarce. And there's a lot of brands with heavy pockets that are willing to spend big money to get attention. And this is why we see creators, sometimes creators with 10,000 followers that end up getting 1, 2, 3,000 impressions per post, charging $1,000 to $3,000 on their posts. So what this tells us is for the kickoff stage, influencer marketing is incredibly costly to start getting traction on your project. If you're a nobody trying to become a somebody, it is going to cost you an arm and a leg for you to get that traction through influencer. So for the kickoff stage, the main objectives would be the following. It would be getting social proof and getting followers. And I'm going to show you how you get there. But the reason why this is important, social proof and followers in common, is because once the time is right, during phase 2, when you're about to approach the influencers or you're about to start working with these influencers, the influencers with real audiences do not work with any projects. The influencers that have the organic communities, the eyeballs that you want to attract, they don't work with any projects. They have hundreds of projects hitting up their inbox every single week. And the way they scan through which projects they are willing to work with and are willing, this is the keyword, to give them a good rate is through the perceived value of the project. If your project already has a perceived value, it has high follower count, you have a lot of followers in common, which means people are interested in the specific project, then they're going to be a lot more likely to say yes to your offer. And number 2, they're going to be a lot more likely to give you a fair rate. It is so common for influencers to see up random projects and just highball it. It's like, you know what, I typically charge 1K, but let me give them 5K as my rate. And if they bite, they bite. If not, no worries. I'm not going to lose sleep not working with this project. And you might find this unfair, but this is the reality of the marketplace we live in. So the reality is we're going to need to have social proof and we're going to need to have followers in common. When projects go on your account, they need to see that other people in their network are also following you. And the way we get to phase 1, which is the 0 to 10K followers, is through non-influencer campaigns. What do I mean by this? The best of these strategies is through what I call the founder funnel. And the objective with the founder funnel are those 2 things, social proof and followers in common. And the founder funnel is not something new. It's not the first time we talk about this. I've made countless videos about the founder funnel. But the main goal behind the founder funnel is to build a presence around the founder profile of your project and then leveraging that army of connections, friends, supporters, and followers that you have to then push these people into your Web3 project. I'll give you a very simple example. There's this pretty well-established creator in the Web3 space. He's not a huge creator. He has about 15,000 followers, has been building his brand for quite some time, and has recently launched a sports community for Web3. And through the month of connections that he's built and through his personal brand, what he did is he messaged all his friends, all his connections. He's messaged me personally and has told me, hey, Leon, I finally launched my project and I would love to have you part of my project. And this is how he was able to get some of the top creators, a handful of real organic people, to go into his brand, follow it, and kickstart the growth of his project organically with high quality eyeballs and high quality followers. So what constitutes a successful founder funnel rollout? This is where we have organic content on your timeline. This is where we have networking, you networking one-on-one with top creators. This is where you have spaces as a channel to get very good connections and awareness. This is where we have the reply guy strategy. These are all tested and proven strategies that work. The only problem where most founders fail is it takes time. It takes time, it takes effort. And most founders just want to sit back, work on their product, and don't want to be out there doing marketing. The alternative to the founder funnel is to spend your way to grow your account. But as we've seen already, it is costly. And it's going to cost you about $25,000 for you to get the traction that you would want during the kickoff stage. So you either can spend your way in or you can grow your way in through the founder funnel. Another tactic that I'm not very much of a fan of, but it is out there, it does exist, and projects are using it. And I want to equip you with all the strategies that you have access as part of your toolkit to grow your project. So another growth strategy is through questing platforms. So by questing platforms, what do I mean by this? There's a lot of platforms out there that have an existing audience of people who are out there engaging and farming rewards. One platform I can think of is called Task On, which I personally know the founder, and it's one of those platforms out there. And what you pretty much do is you create quests on the platform and you incentivize users to follow the page, to engage with your content, to retweet your posts, to comment, to like. And what they get is there's a raffle system and they end up getting a prize. And the more valuable your prize is, the more engagement you're going to get. And the typical minimum buy-in per quest is $50. And there's some brands out there doing $200, $300, $400 per day quests through the platform. And what this allows you to do, the truth is, it allows you to get vanity metrics. You will not get high quality eyeballs. These will not be people that are going to be buying into your project. These are literally just farmers, oftentimes from third world countries. They're just out there with their X account, farming different rewards, trying to land a couple wins every once in a while. And this is another strategies that brands have been using to get followers. You're pretty much getting the closest thing to bots, but it exists. And when you see a project that has, out of the blue, a lot of followers, or you know where those are coming from, oftentimes these are from these questing platforms. So the objective with phase one is to get the social proof and to get the followers in common. Once we have that in place, this is where we are ready to move to the second phase, which is phase two, which is the KOL campaign or the influencer campaign. So with the phase two, which is the KOL campaign, the objectives with this campaign are going to be market penetration. So having people who have never heard of you before hear about you for the very first time. The second one is going to be FOMO trigger. And the third one is going to be top of mind awareness. This is where people who have never heard of you before are going to hear about your project for the very first time. And there's a couple different variables that we have to control to make this a successful campaign. But if you could draw your marketing spend during the first three phases of the launch. So we have phase one, so P1, P2, and P3 of the campaign. If this was your marketing spend, it would perhaps look something like this right here. And then at the trigger of the KOL campaign, this is where you're going to spend a lot of your marketing budget. And then during P3, it's going to be linear. But for P2, it is expensive because as we've seen, impressions cost a lot. And the main objective would be to get your project these three things: market penetration, FOMO trigger, and then top of mind awareness. People that have never heard of you, all of a sudden, they have you on your radar. And one way of doing this is by borrowing the goodwill that other creators have in the marketplace, aka influencers, and then leveraging that for your project. If beloved creator number one, number two, and number three talk about your project, then all of a sudden, their followers that trust them already are going to be more likely to check you out, see what you have to say, see what you have to offer. When it comes to the framework of how to engineer your KOL campaign, this is what it looks like. There are three tiers of KOLs: tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. At the kickoff stage of the KOL campaign, what is going to happen? The best performing strategy that we've seen today is tier 1 and tier 2 KOLs taking the brand post that you have and then using that to quote retweet it. So I'll show you an example right here. There is this project that my team and I have had the opportunity to work with in the past during their first NFT mint through Twitter Spaces. For those of you who don't know, at Unfungible, what we've built is the biggest network of Web3 Twitter Spaces in our industry. So we have the ability to give distribution channels to a lot of these big brands that are trying to launch and are trying to attract new customers into their ecosystem. That's one way brands work with us. So today, the game is a project that we have worked on Twitter Spaces with during the first launch of their NFT. And now they have the second launch of their NFT coming up. And what they're doing is exactly that. So what I have right here is the perfect example of what a KOL campaign looks like. Here's what the kickoff of the KOL campaign looked like for Today the Game. They made a post out announcing the next stage of the brand. So very nice trailer, contextual caption. So you can see influencers are quote retweeting the page from the brand and then commenting on it. And one reason why this works best is because it looks the most organic. No one wants to be, long gone are the days where a creator can just come out and be like, let me tell you about the newest Web3 gaming giant that is about to revolutionize the metaverse. It doesn't work anymore. Now, the more organic something looks, the better it performs. And the quote retweeting as the kickoff is the framework that currently works best. What tier 1 and tier 2 influencers do is they're going to quote retweet the brand post. And then we're going to have tier 3 influencers engage and quote retweet from tier 1 and tier 2 influencers. Let's say you have a big influencer that talks about your project. What we want to do as a team is to make sure that as many people see that there's a big influencer talking about that project. This is how you get authority building and you get social proof. Most of the industry knows the same 10 names when it comes to influencers. So you want to make sure that everyone in the industry see that these big creators are talking about this project. So not only do you want to amplify the brand post, you want to amplify the posts of the creators that are writing about the project. So tier 3 influencers are engaging with tier 2 and tier 1. Tier 2 are engaging with tier 1. So they're taking perhaps a creator writes about Today the Game in the context of this brand. And then a tier 2 influencer takes that and they quote retweet that one and they engage on it. They give their own take, they give their own input. And that's how the framework of the KOL campaign looks like. Fast forward after the kickoff, that's when we're going to start seeing influencers take the different announcements that Today the Game is going to be making closer to the launch. They take that and then they create standalone content. And then you use the exact same framework. Tier 2 influencers and tier 3 influencers pushing that and giving it the visibility that you want it to have. So that is the overall framework of what it looks like. Now, you might be asking yourself a very important question. How do I find these influencers? Where are they? Who are these people? And there's 2 ways to do it. So the first path is DIY, do it yourself. The second one is work with middlemen. So with the DIY way, this is where you can compile a list of all the top influencers. You can use a tool like if you write inspect.io, it's going to show you the ranking of all the top profiles in Web3. You're going to have to go one by one, see who is it that looks like an influencer, who is it that looks like a creator, who has had experience working on some campaigns, and then you reach out to those people. With these campaigns, the pros of doing it yourself is you save a lot of money on having someone else manage your campaign. So you're doing it in-house. The con is you don't have the trust that comes with having a middleman in place, someone who already has built the relationships. And number 2, you're often going to get non-answers. Not everyone is going to answer you. The second path, which is working with a middleman, this is where you can partner with other agencies, even KOLs themselves. Let's say you are to find someone and you can be like, hey, can you put me in touch with your friends? I'm happy to pay you for that, for the connections. And this is where you can work with content managers. So people who manage the deal flow for other creators. This path is oftentimes a lot more expensive because you are not only paying for the influencers, but you're also paying for the cost of management, the middleman. There's a lot more people in the middle that are going to have a cut. However, here's what I'm going to tell you. The working with a middleman is often going to save you a lot of headache. Like Today the Game, I know exactly who's running their campaign. Highly established team with all the connections in place, with all the systems and processes. They know exactly what constitutes a successful KOL campaign. So all the budget that they're going to be managing, they know exactly how to maximize it and make the most out of it. And it's no wonder that literally Today the Game, there's actually a post right here. So you all asked which whitelist were currently on your radar. Today the Game is absolutely dominating. So you can see everyone in Raiden's community, who is a good friend of mine as well. This is where most of his community is asking for Today the Game. And this is what a successful rollout of a KOL campaign looks like. You get the ability to, boom, get into everyone's face very rapidly, and it triggers that FOMO. And this is a great example of what you want to be looking at. So these right here are the 2 paths that you have in front of you. Now, the variables that we have control over. Now, in an ideal world, what we would like to ensue after the rollout of a KOL campaign is FOMO kicking in and people wanting access to your project. Just like Raiden, for example, right here, he has a gaming community, and all of a sudden his whole gaming community is now asking for whitelist to the actual project. And this is what we want to get to. And the KOL campaign gets you in front of a lot of eyeballs very quickly. The variables that we have control over is what I call quality of the marketing material. And then we have what I call the VET. So what do I mean by this? A big reason why a lot of projects end up burning all their money and don't get traction on their project for them to move on to phase number 3 right here, which is the incentive campaign, is because they push their project with a lot of influencers, but in reality, their project sucks. Like they have nothing of value. They have a product that no one wants access to. They do not have anything that people deem valuable. They might see the project, but they're going to just skip the post and move on to the next thing. So the quality of the marketing creative, the quality of your animations, the quality of your storytelling, can you pull people into a story that is going to make their imagination tickle, that is going to make them wanting to explore your ecosystem more? The more you invest in your creative, the more you invest in your trailers, the more you invest in the storytelling, the more desirable your project will become. The next part of the variables that we have to control is the VET framework, which stands for vision, execution, and team. So here's what I mean by this. At every step of your marketing campaign, you want to be communicating these three things: your vision, your execution, and your team. So where are you going? How do you intend on getting there? And who is a team behind the project that has the ability to take that vision and make it a reality? It is no surprise that today the game, on their description, on their bio right here, they have by Oscar winning and leads from Nintendo, Saga, Epic Games, and Unity. This is them right here focusing on the team element. They are showcasing that this is a real legit project. And then they have all the visuals, the creatives, the trailers, the social proof that allowed them to communicate the vision and execution. The more you have the ability to not only tell people what you do, but to show them how you intend on doing it and that you have the capacity, the more sticky your brand is going to be and the more people are going to want to join your ecosystem. One of the projects that we've worked with, KPR Verse, they did a fantastic job at the VET framework. With the vision, what they wanted to do is to create a new generation of online experiences. So KPR Verse, they didn't only say that they wanted to do this. What they did is they ended up designing the world's most beautiful website of 2022. So they got the award for the world's, not Web3, the world's most beautiful website of 2022. And you can see just, they showed the world how they intend on creating these next generation of online experiences. And this is me right here scrolling through the website. And you can see this costed 6 figures to make this website. And finally, when it comes to the team behind KPR Verse was very well established with a very well reputable presence within the Treasure ecosystem, which is a Web3 gaming ecosystem. So they had all of the VET segments in place and they were able to have an incredibly successful NFT launch in the middle of the bear market. Like literally during the time of the FTX crash, they were able to raise, I remember, over $3 million on their NFT mint in a market where nothing was succeeding. So these right here are the two variables. And this is where, at the end of the day, if you have a good product, it's going to stick. If you don't have a good product, then before even launching your KOL campaign, work on your product. Focus on your product. Focus on building out the team. Again, you don't need to be a somebody when you get into Web3. You can build your presence. You can become a somebody by contributing to the marketplace, by becoming a creator, by becoming a thought leader. We've seen a lot of big brands launch only through the personal brand of the founder. So work on the VET framework and then work on the quality of the marketing content that you have. And this, ladies and gentlemen, brings us the phase number 3 of the project, which is the incentive stage. If at this point you have ran a successful KOL campaign, you have the right creators talking about your project, you have the VET framework properly mapped out, and you have good quality content, people are going to start desiring your content. So the next steps become, the next baton that you're going to give to the next runner is the incentive campaign. And this is where marketing spend starts to cool off. You've already pushed your project, and this is the next stage where all of a sudden you let that initial traction that you get on your project, you make that compound through incentive campaigns. As we've chatted with the incentive campaign, the objective is to take all that attention that we got from phase 2 and then multiply that organically without having to continuously having to spend marketing budget. And the way today the game did it is what they have is they have a reward-based system that people can get access to by engaging in certain quests on Discord. So this is a very typical questing system. We've seen another project that did it incredibly well, which was Persona Journey. So Persona Journey, a project that we worked directly with, they had the most successful NFT launch of 2024, raising over $5 million on their campaign. With Persona, what they did incredibly well is they had a very nicely set up, beautiful aesthetic with all the VET elements from the framework perfectly hit on. What they had was an incentive campaign where every time they made a post, people were invited to engage with those specific posts, to like, to retweet, to comment, to share it, to write a post, to make a piece of content about Persona, and they would get points. And these points would then be redeemed for whitelist. So that's how you're able to create demand for your project. And then you give people the ability to pursue their desires for your project through the questing campaign. So if someone really wants access to Persona 2 Today the Game, they have the ability to do that through the incentive campaign. Today the Game, for example, are doing their questing the OG way with Discord. With Persona, we've seen a new generation of projects that are doing it with built-in questing platform where they built this in-house. So for you, it's up to you which path you want to take. Obviously, the more it's on brand, the more the experience is unique, the more memorable your project will become. And this was the reason why Persona, the most in-demand project of the industry, because they literally hit on all these elements perfectly. But there is no right or wrong way to do this. But with the incentive campaign, it all goes back to the variables. If your project is in demand and if you have something that is appealing, then people are going to be wanting to partake in your engagement quests. And this right here, ladies and gentlemen, the phase 3 is where you get the real buyers. The real buyers don't come in phase 1. They don't come in phase 2. They come in phase 3. They come after people have expanded time, energy, and resources to get your whitelist. This is where the real buyers come in. And the more valuable your NFT, the more valuable your project, the more willing people are going to be partake in big, complicated, complex quests that you can put in front of them. Literally, I remember with Persona, they had people write threads about the project for them to gain points, and people were doing it. We had some of the biggest creators write big threads, so they were able to get hundreds of thousands of marketing budget for free just because they had the right incentive structure with the right project that was in demand. And with the incentive campaign, as we've seen, your marketing budget is going to slow down. The main objective throughout the incentive campaign is to remain top of mind, to keep the project hot, to continue that flow of traffic and demand to come into your project. And although you might not necessarily stop completely the KOL campaign budget, it's going to go down. Every once in a while, if you feel that the project needs a little push, you can inject a little bit more budget. And as we've seen right now with the strategy of tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 KOLs, this is where it gets interesting. You can add a new layer, which are the farmers. These are the people that are part of your questing platform. And then whenever you have a creator that you pay or that writes an organic piece of content about, you can send your army of people to go engage with that post, giving it even more visibility. So all of a sudden, you see how you can use the farmers as an even deeper layer of KOLs that are now engaging within your ecosystem to get into your project. So as we've seen, ladies and gentlemen, the 3 phases of a successful launch of a project. Phase 1 is where we get the kickoff. We get the initial traction for our project, which then allows us to move into phase 2, which is the influencer campaign. Following the influencer campaign, we want to eventually give the baton to more organic initiatives through the incentive campaign. And you can see how when these 3 work together, you get a marketing campaign that won't burn all your budget, but that also has the ability to scale even beyond how much you are spending. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Leon Aboud. It was a great pleasure sharing this time together, and I shall see you in the very next video. Have a good one.